Hey, it's Dr. Bonsai. Today I'm going to talk about some of the quirks and issues I've had with the Canon EOS M50, a few things I wish were different. Of course, it's a very nice camera, but I can go over the quirks today. First one, CR3 RAW and the support. With all the software that I use doesn't support CR3. I know it's newer, but maybe Canon should have pushed harder with software companies to make that work, make it supported. Of course, all the Adobe stuff does support it. The Capture One, I think, now does support it, but a lot of the smaller software don't. High ISO performance with the Canon EOS M50 I would consider not great. Now, I'm coming from large sensor cameras with Sony-based sensors in them from Nikon, and of course that's not really a fair comparison, but I do think from what I've seen, the Sony sensors that are APS-C, Fuji cameras with their specific X-Trans sensors and all of that, I do think are better in those situations. But it's manageable, especially what you want to do, at least what I do, is get faster glass, get better glass to compensate for that. Right now I'm shooting on a 22mm f2 at f2, and I have the 32mm f1.4, and those really do help in a lot of situations with this camera. Kind of an ergonomic issue, really depends on how big your nose is, but the EVF doesn't come very far out from the camera itself. When I use it, I can sometimes touch my nose to the screen. In certain situations, depending on the settings, it'll change the focus point and issues like that. Now, there are ways to get around it, of course. You can even flip the screen into the camera itself so that, of course, it's not going to happen in that situation. Just use the EVF. Like I said, there are ways to get around it, but it is irritating sometimes to touch the screen accidentally with your face. I think the Nikon Z cameras have a much better setup in that case. I've used those and it pops out quite a bit from the camera. Of course, that's not a fair comparison. This is a lot smaller camera, but it's how it is. The battery on the M50 is smaller than the M5 and the M6 cameras. Of course, there is a price difference, or at least there was a price difference, and those came out before this camera, but I wish they would have used the same battery for all of the M cameras. Use a slightly larger battery. It's a mirrorless camera, it uses a lot of power. I really think they should have stuck with that larger battery throughout the line. There is no simple dedicated cable release port on the camera. I guess they want to save a few bucks, but that causes some issues for certain types of photography. It's a pretty big hassle if you want to do time lapses, anything like that. Now, the camera does have time lapse, but it's a movie specific feature. It does not take single frames. Now, you can buy a Bluetooth thing to take photos in situations like that if you want to have some type of cable release, but it's an added accessory. It's wireless. It means you have to have batteries and stuff like that. It's not ideal, and if you are interested in that type of photography, you do a lot of it, that's a big consideration. In my opinion, this camera has a poor implementation of aperture priority. I use that feature a lot in my older cameras. It was really simple. You set a minimum shutter speed in those situations. The shutter speed will be fast enough to not have blur. This camera doesn't have any type of shake reduction. It doesn't have that feature where you want to set that minimum shutter speed. And you can adjust your settings to use shutter priority and then have auto ISO. That's decent in some situations. I have used that quite a bit, but again, I don't think features-wise for photographers, features that are very convenient and useful to me personally. I really do like aperture priority when it's implemented well, but in this case, not so much. Not all of the settings are saved per mode on the camera, so if you want to change to dedicated video mode, you're in a photo mode, you're in a different photo mode, all the settings won't save. Things like autofocus settings. If you're trying to do high-speed action photography and then you switch to like simple portraits, you have to change some settings extra again, and it's kind of a hassle. There are no custom modes on this camera. You can't save all those settings as a group. I make a lot of YouTube videos, of course, and one of my main issues is where the memory card is on the camera, right in the bottom by the battery. and I have an AC adapter. I have one of the DC couplers that goes in the battery slot, so you can have AC power connected to the camera. Very good in situations. I'm filming myself right now with the other M50. The AC adapter is connected to it. So that's good, but then issues of getting information off the cards easily. When I want to pull the card itself, I have to disconnect the AC adapter and all that, and it turns into a big hassle. I've been trying the ways to transfer stuff from the camera directly. Now Wi-Fi does work. There's a feature in the camera where you can automatically send photos and videos to a computer. The biggest issue with Wi-Fi transfer is that it's very slow, 2 to 3 megabytes a second in my testing, so that's not a good feature for anything that are large files, video files in my case. Now I've been using USB, a direct USB cable to the computer, and that is the best option. Now there are some quirks with it. If you use basically the Windows File Explorer, you have the cable connected, any files over 4 gigabytes will not be able to transfer. They're basically just 0-byte files on the computer and you can't do anything with them. Now if you use the EOS utility application, you can actually transfer those extra large files. Now of course, those are just really large, long video files in that case, and it's somewhat of an edge case, but it was an issue for me with some situations where I record really long takes, and it does happen to make a lot of mistakes. So that took some work in trying to figure out what the issue was, and then eventually the Canon support people were like, you should use the EOS utility in this case, and it does work. It's just an added layer of hassle. There are definitely some features of the camera that are missing. I really wish they were in there. They would help me out a lot in what I do. The first one is audio levels while recording video. Now there are audio levels in the camera, but it only shows on one specific screen. You have the info button, you can cycle between different screens for the camera. It only shows in the screen that I don't use, and I don't really see a huge purpose for in a lot of situations. Maybe if you're using the EVF, and then you have a black screen with all the information and then audio levels, but who films a lot of their stuff like that in video? I don't know. I really wish that audio level feature was there while I'm recording video so I could see that it's working. It just makes sense to me that it should be there and visible, and it should also be on the screen before you're recording as well. It just should be there, and the feature exists in the camera. Even though this camera doesn't have any dedicated button to switch between custom modes, I really think it should have some type of software version of that. There is really only the excuse that they want to tier their cameras based on price and feature set, but it's really irritating. Give me some type of way to save all of my settings. That should not be a professional feature. That should be a basic feature for any photographer. This camera does have the 4K video as they tout, and also has the 120 frames a second. Now the issue, of course, as a lot of people say, is the 4K doesn't have dual pixel autofocus. It has a huge crop, and also with 120 frames a second, it's at 720p. It has no autofocus at all. Now I would of course like to see those features improved. In this camera it's not going to happen, but that's how it is. Now, I don't see those two as a huge issue. I'm definitely interested in having those features enhanced in other cameras, but it's really not a huge quirk for me because they put something in. I really wish they wouldn't have tried to push those features as something good in this camera, but they are usable. In some situations, they're just not great. It's just, I'm not going to hold those two against them like I would with the custom mode being not in here in the custom save modes. All that said, this camera is very good. It is very useful to me for a lot of the stuff that I do, especially with video. I do think this camera and the SL2, which is a traditional SLR I had before this from Canon, have really changed my ability to make videos quickly, effectively, and decent quality. So that said, they are very good cameras in many respects, but you've seen my quirks so far. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Scott from Photography Bonsai. If you did enjoy the video, please consider subscribing, liking it, all of that. Helps me out a lot. Thanks.